Hello, Bobby Jones here from MeidasTouch and Valor Media Networks. Over the course of the last year, I've been giving you candidate interviews for people who will be running for Congress here in the 2026 midterm elections. And the thought and the hope is you get to see people in the United States who understand the crisis of the moment. People who in particular have worn the uniform either in the military or public service who continue to execute that oath. Today is no different. I interviewed Bale Dalton, a man who, since he was 18 years old, has decided to be about others instead of himself. And he is running against someone who, quite honestly, is everything wrong with the current state of America. He's running for United States Congress in Florida's 7th District. And here is the interview that I think you need to hear. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of Anchor Watch. I'm your humble host, Bobby Jones, and we have a very rare treat for you. The two things that we try to bring you on this show are subject matter experts and those who are willing to put themselves out there as leaders to reshape the direction of the country. And we have someone who's been doing it for a very long time, first in uniform and now trying to do it outside of uniform. Mr. Bale Dalton, who's running for the United States Congress in Florida's 7th District. And we'll get into his opponent here in a little bit, but I just want to say first, thank you, Bale, for coming on and being that guy willing to step up in a time of, leadership crisis, in my opinion.
Yeah, thanks, Bobby. I mean, obviously you've done it yourself, and I would be remiss right at the start to not say go Navy. A couple of Annapolis guys here on the screen today. Appreciate that leadership trial that we went through, as college students, trying to get us ready for the real world, which became very real, of course, just immediately after your graduation and the first semester of my senior year there with September 11th. Our classes in particular were out there a lot quicker than we thought we would be, trying to protect our homeland from threats abroad. So obviously, my thanks to you. Yeah, we could talk a little bit about how we came up, right? So I just want to touch a little bit about that. So yeah, we both went through late 90s, early 2000s, and what's interesting is none of us really knew what the heck was on the other side. Right. President Bush was at our graduation, and he told us, hey, we don't know what the future holds, but you need to be prepared for it. And he was right. How did not just Annapolis, but the extensive Navy career? I mean, you hit the major wickets of service. As a matter of fact, our, the Academy's mission statement at the end there is all about command, citizenship, and government, and you are now hitting all three wickets. What was it about being in the Navy, starting in Annapolis and then going to the fleet, that prepared you for this? Yeah, well, like I said, public service has really been ingrained in me ever since coming up, in my family and with my parents. And, especially post September 11th, I got a chance. I was a helicopter pilot, did search and rescue, participated in the Hurricane Katrina relief even before my first deployment. So, life was real very quick, for your class and mine, as well as others, of course. And I was actually part of the first overland medical evacuation unit that the Navy had ever since, really Vietnam. And so, again, we were in it quick. And, by extension, I got a lot of overland flight time, goggle time, combat time, and I got picked up by the Navy's Special Operations Support Helicopter Squadron. So went back to Iraq, multiple times flying against the terrorist cells there. And then in the last tour that I had in my active duty time, I was with Naval Special Warfare Group 1, the SEALs on the ground in Afghanistan, providing forward air control. But to answer your question, and then, then I went into the reserves, still in the reserves to this day, actually mobilized to take command of the Navy Special Operations Support Helicopter Squadron. So you know how it goes, when you spend that time, first you're a follower, right, and a learner. And you really have to keep your eyes and ears open for those folks who have, different experiences than you or more experiences than you. And, put those all into, the learning lab that is life in the Navy, with folks that have come up in different ways, think about things differently. And, that was the great part about my Navy service, again, which continues in the reserve, is, this is what you can do when you've got everybody rowing together and headed for a particular mission, sometimes putting disagreements and differences aside to find compromise, but really having everybody that's, put their life and livelihood on the line to achieve success. And, I was blessed to have some success throughout the Navy and leading teams, and in really taking care of, the sailors and officers that were under my care as a commanding officer. So I think all of those things that I've got to experience in the Navy, certainly helped, make me who I am, and only further ingrained in me the need that we have for, selfless leaders, right? It sounds a little self-aggrandizing, right, to say that, but that's what we learned from our mentors. And that's what we learned from our sailors as well, that, that unselfish leadership, that making sure that the mission is achieved and that everybody's skill set is used in the right way. And, it doesn't matter who gets the credit, so long as, things are done in the way that gets the mission accomplished. I think that was, highly beneficial to creating, this person that I am today.
No, I think you hit on some very, very salient points. Number one, leadership is not about you. It's about everybody else. Right. And that is something that when people are polled about Congress, the first thing they say is they don't think Congress cares about them.
That's right.
Right. And so that leads me into, when you look and see the landscape politically in the United States, what do you see and what bothers you about it?
Yeah, I think you nailed it already. I think what bothers me most about it seems like the politicians in D.C. are really, more focused on themselves, whether it's their own livelihood or their bank account or, what power means to them or fame means to them. I see a lot of people, in whatever shape or form, get up into, Congress or our political leadership and seem to forget, who put them there in the first place, to give them that faithful representation to our federal government. And in my case, running for U.S. House, that folks need and deserve. And, the longer you have that gap in between being self-serving and serving the people, who put you there, the further you get removed from these things that are really affecting people. And, here in Seminole and Volusia County in Central Florida, we've got folks that are struggling, my friends, family, neighbors, trying to, figure out how to make ends meet, desperately hoping and praying that they're not going to get sick or hurt and miss time on work because they can't afford health insurance premiums in order to get back to work or get themselves well and taking care of their families and small businesses. So I think, you said it at the top. I think that is the most concerning thing to me, is we've got politicians in D.C. who just, create this distance between themselves and the folks that they're supposed to serve. And, that's the exact opposite of what we need to be happening.
You nailed it in many respects. And you brought up something I want to really dive into. The affordability crisis America is facing. And it's not just putting food on the table. We're talking healthcare. We're talking across the spectrum, right? As far as you're concerned, how you see things, what is Congress not getting? Is Congress so disconnected that they don't understand it? Because I know here in Georgia, just one state up, we got people who are losing homes, farms, and cannot afford healthcare.
Yeah, I don't know what's in the water up there that's causing people to forget these things, right? Because like I said, it's real for me. It's my family. I was born and raised here in Central Florida. My family lives here still, as obviously I do, here in Sanford, Florida. And, this seemingly commitment to talk about anything else other than what folks really need their representatives to be taken care of is mind-boggling to me. Congress can absolutely, the health insurance problem, right now with the ACA subsidies expiring, that is a crisis of Congress's own making. They could decide that tomorrow if folks would stand up and do the right thing for, their constituents. And, look, we've been promised a government that'd be working more efficiently, an economy that would be getting better. Neither of those things is happening. And I don't hear people talking about it. This is what people need. And the politicians in DC seem to be going off on whatever other tangent, maybe purposefully, that will take them away from doing what their actual job is, which is taking care of their folks.
The accountability across the board in Washington seems to have gone off the rail. Whether you're talking about the president, whether you're talking about Congress, no one seems to be held accountable. So let's pivot and talk about the person that you potentially be running against, and that is Representative Cory Mills. Now, if those of you who are watching do not know, this dude is a piece of work. He's a piece of work. And I'm not going to hold him against my brothers and sisters in the Army, but man, it's a bad look. This guy here, man, I've never seen anything. And I had seen clips, but when I started getting ready for this interview and really deep diving, how does he have a job, Bale? How is he still in Congress?
Well, you talk about our brothers and sisters in the Army, and of course we won't hold him against them because, there's folks who have served. I didn't serve with Cory. I wasn't there where, he says he was, but the folks that were there, the folks that were in that unit, the folks that were doing and actually performing heroic actions, they've got a lot of questions about these stories that he tells people and, that self-aggrandizing, selfish way. It's, as a veteran, obviously you're a veteran. It is shameful to our whole community when folks like Congressman Mills, for completely selfish purposes to try to build themselves up. We know the more people talk about their, heroic actions, the less likely they are to have occurred, right? That's human nature. We know that already. And when you've got folks that have actually served with you, asking questions, people that have served with Congressman Mills talking about he wasn't even there or he has not performed the actions that he says he has. That's a great concern to me. And it brings dishonor and discredit to, his own unit as well as to us as a veteran community. So, this guy's got no business being any kind of, spokesperson for the veteran community or representative of the veteran community. And, certainly has no business trying to make decisions that are going to affect people's lives when it seems like he can't keep his own house in order.
What's amazing to me about him, okay, let's say that's his past, whatever. If that doesn't bother you, fine, because you'll have people like, well, he hadn't done this. Let's talk about his congressional record, shall we? When you bring bipartisan anger to your office door, you must be doing everything possible wrong. We have seen Nancy Mace go after him. We've seen the Democratic Party go after him. We've seen the conflict of interest with his company that he has selling weapons in the Middle East. This guy completely acts like he is above any accountability. And this is where I'm just racking my brain. If Congress, the members don't want you, how is it possible he's still there?
Yeah, well, there's a lot packed into that, right? The first thing is, when folks are choosing who's going to represent them in Congress, they need to be choosing somebody who can work with others, who can actually get a meeting, with colleagues and sometimes folks from across the aisle to try to make things happen. Here's a guy who can't even, get a meeting because people, don't want to touch him with a 10-foot pole, which they shouldn't do. You've got a guy who is wasting floor time because so many other people are like, the behavior that you're exhibiting as a congressperson is so far outside of what is expected and required and what Floridians deserve. We're wasting time that ought to be time spent on solving the problems of the people of Florida based on, the list is so long, right? We don't have enough time to even talk about it. But, here's a guy who's a foreign weapons dealer. He makes his money by selling weapons to other countries. He refuses to disclose what those countries are. So they may mean us harm, right? Again, as a veteran and somebody who's in uniform today, boy, that sticks in my craw pretty hard. And the fact that he's also have investigation into his campaign finance, right? We don't know where the money's coming from that is supporting his race, either this race or earlier elections that he ran in. And just to go full circle all the way back to the part where as a congressperson, you need to be up there working with the other 434 of your colleagues in the Congress to make sure people back home are getting what they need and deserve. And, this is a guy who can't perform the functions of being a congressperson even before we start talking about the fact that he ought not be there based on his behavior.
It's funny you say that, because all the stuff that he's getting caught up in is doing nothing to represent the people of Central Florida. It's almost like they are an accessory to the latest drama with him. And we haven't even gotten to his personal stuff. We don't need to. But here's the thing. Bale, can you describe the 7th District, the people there, and what they deserve? Because I think a lot of times that gets lost when we talk about congressional races. Who are you actually representing, and what's unique about them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is old Florida. So I live in a town called Sanford, right on the banks of Lake Monroe, which was key piece of moving stuff up and down our waterways for our old agricultural businesses. And so we've got folks in aerospace and the health services industry all up and down the I-4 corridor, all the way east to the coastline, where folks are enjoying the best parts of Florida on our Atlantic coast and, depend on tourism and, again, those health services and aerospace. And, what the folks deserve is, what we have not been getting for the last couple of years here with Congressman Mills. They deserve somebody who understands, what they need. They deserve someone who understands how they make their livelihood and how to support that. I mean, with Congressman Mills, you have somebody who has actively voted to make life more difficult for Floridians. He voted to cut Medicaid. He voted to take resources away from hospitals, especially the rural hospitals that exist in the middle of this district. And of course, he actively voted not to extend ACA subsidies. So, I don't know what's going on with him, but I will tell you that if you go down his vote record, pretty much every one of his votes has made life more difficult for Floridians. And so, I think bottom line here is, life is too expensive. Life is too difficult right now. And Cory Mills is just too corrupt to fix it.
It's so funny because you guys have such a unique cross section of industry and background, space with agriculture. Those are some wide ranging things. My dad's side of the family is from Ocala. It's right up there near that border there. Yep. So I'm very familiar with it. What's interesting to me is, you kind of hit on it. The government cuts, NASA being cut, all these things that are being cut. And Florida, people need to understand something about Florida. Florida has nationwide industries there that really affect all of us, not just Floridians. And for this man to strategically not think in those terms is kind of mind-boggling to me. So my question, I guess, is what is he there for? Is it just enrichment of him?
Yeah, I mean, that seems to be at least part of it. And of course, I wouldn't pretend to understand what's going on in Cory Mills' head, but you nailed it. We have an incredibly great cross section of people here in Florida. And like I said, I was born and raised here. These folks are my family, my friends, mentors, teachers, Boy Scout leaders, sports coaches. And it is so cool, as you mentioned, that folks are working throughout a whole different spectrum of, services that really go to benefit the nation as a whole. Big modeling, simulation, and training for both our, DOD folks as well as our commercial air, making the skies safer, making sure, pilots have what they need to ferry us around to our families and friends that live in other parts of the country. And of course, the space industry. Look, I got the chance to help lead NASA, 16,000 researchers, scientists, engineers, astronauts across the whole country, 14 different centers across the country. And of course, as you noted, right here close to home in Kennedy Space Center. So you've got a lot of folks who have put their, blood, sweat, and tears into industries that are meant to help us out as a population, whether that's health services or aerospace or specifically NASA, like we just talked about. And, these folks deserve better than Congressman Mills. And, I'm here to give them that choice.
Perfect segue into the final point. You're running for Congress. The oath that you took as a midshipman does not have an expiration date.
That's right.
Tell people why they should vote for you in the 7th District of Florida.
Yeah, well, look, in me, you have someone I think that's dedicated their life to that oath, right? To do what we need to get done for our country. And it's service over self. Always. And, what folks in Florida need and what they deserve is someone who's representing them to the federal government with their needs top of mind. And service and that selfless leadership selfless leadership that we talked about. And, I think I've proven throughout my life in the different areas that I've been blessed and opportunities I've been blessed to have, throughout the Navy, both, as a junior officer and a, now 3-time commanding officer, serving Floridians already as a member of Senator Nelson's staff, especially our veterans, making sure they were getting the benefits that they earned and the care that they needed in their own transition. And then, of course, we just talked about, NASA, industry that's near and dear to Floridians, and making sure that we're making the right decisions there and being good stewards of taxpayer dollars. So, with me, I think you have somebody who's got a lot of different experiences. Of course, this is my first time running for Congress, but I think all of those things lead into the type of person that folks should be interested in learning more about and choosing as their representative, because again, we all deserve representatives that are focused on our needs and not their own.
Wow. Very well put. Very well put. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bale Dalton, a man who has been living for others and working and helping others for over half of his life. It's some of the most dangerous situations you can find yourself in. And he wants to continue to serve by representing Florida's 7th District. I cannot tell you not only how proud I am of you, but more importantly, how in awe that you're taking on such added responsibility, because that's a lot, but we really appreciate it. And we're here to support you in that endeavor.
Well, thanks, shipmate. I appreciate it. You should expect nothing less, having been through some of the same trials and tribulations that I have, and appreciate what you do. Thanks for having me on. And for the folks that are out there listening, just hearing me for the first time, check us out at BaleDalton.com and, spread the word. We have people out there, not just myself, throughout the country that are interested in performing this selfless service. It's what we need. And we as voters need to be telling Congress that this is what we deserve. So appreciate you, Bobby.
No problem. We'll put a link to your site so people can get more information on it. And good luck to you, Bale.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.